Hi, everyone. We're here to talk about a really important brand new update to two of the world's biggest management standards. Just a little while ago, ISO 9001 and 14001 got a tiny but game-changing amendment that really shows where the world of business is heading. So let's unpack exactly what this means for you. And let's just get right to the point with the big question. Is your management system actually ready for climate change? Because, as of right now, thinking about this is no longer just a nice idea or something to plan for in the future. It's become a formal, auditable requirement. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, a super quick refresher on the standards themselves. Then we'll jump straight into the new 2024 climate amendment. After that, we'll get into why this small change matters so much, how you can get your system ready for it, and finally, who on your team really needs to get up to speed on all this. Okay, first things first, let's just quickly set the stage by talking about the foundation for all of this, the standards themselves. So we're really talking about two heavyweights here. You've got ISO 9001 on one side, which is the heart and soul of any quality management system, or QMS. It's all about making sure you're consistent and keeping your customers happy. And on the other side, you've got ISO 14001, which is the playbook for your environmental management system, your EMS. It helps you get a handle on your environmental impact. They have different jobs for sure, but they both point toward the same goal: building a stronger, more resilient business. And now for the main event, this new climate amendment. So what on earth did ISO actually change? Let's get into it. To give you a bit of context, the versions of these standards that we all know and use came out way back in 2015. But this update in February 2024 didn't just come out of nowhere. It's really a direct answer to massive pressure from, everywhere. Markets, investors, governments, they all see climate risk as a core business risk now. This is ISO making sure the standards reflect that new reality. And what's really amazing is that this entire massive shift, it all comes down to just two simple little sentences being added to the text. It's a perfect example of how a tiny tweak in wording can send huge ripples through businesses all over the world. Now, take a look at this. You can actually see the exact change for yourself. This is the official text, and you can see it's been dropped right into two really key clauses. 4.1, which is all about understanding your organization's context, and 4.2, which is about understanding what your stakeholders need. Okay, so here's the absolute key. This first line added to clause 4.1. It says, the organization shall determine whether climate change is a relevant issue. Now, anyone who works with ISO knows that word shall is non-negotiable. It's a command, not a suggestion. You are now required to formally sit down and consider climate change. And the second part of the change, this new note in clause 4.2, it pushes you to think beyond just your own operations. It says relevant interested parties can have requirements related to climate change. So what does that mean? It means your customers who are demanding greener supply chains, investors who are looking at your environmental ratings, or even regulators who are bringing in new carbon rules. All of their expectations, they are now formally part of your system. So we know what was changed, but now for the big question. So what? Why does this actually matter for your day-to-day operations and, for your bottom line? There's a really specific reason they put this change in clause 4, the context of the organization. Think of that clause as the strategic brain of your whole system. It's where you define all the things that could help or hurt you in reaching your goals. By putting climate change right here, ISO has basically lifted it from being a nice-to-have CSR issue to a core strategic business concern. You can immediately see the ripple effect, can't you? Now, climate has to be part of your risk assessments. If you're a manufacturer, a risk could be your supply chain getting disrupted by a hurricane. If you're a tech company, it could be the rising energy cost for your servers. It even connects quality directly to the environment. I mean, a crazy heat wave isn't just an environmental problem anymore. If it ruins your raw materials, it's a quality problem. And maybe the most important takeaway, your auditor is going to ask about this. All right, so that brings us to the practical stuff. Now what? How do you actually go about preparing your system for this change? It really boils down to a pretty straightforward 4-step process. First, you have to reevaluate your context. Ask the question, how could things like floods or carbon taxes or changing customer attitudes about sustainability, how could they affect our business? Second, go talk to your stakeholders and find out what they need. Third, take all those answers and plug them into your existing risk assessments. And finally, number 4, make sure you document all of this as part of your normal process. Now, the really good news here is that you don't have to invent a whole new system. This change slots perfectly into the plan stage of the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle you're already using. But here's the crucial part. Because this is an amendment, not a full new version of the standard, there's no 3-year transition period. The expectation is that you integrate this, well, now. It's part of your system from here on out. Okay, so a change this significant isn't just about updating a few documents, right? It's really about making sure your people are ready. So the question is, who needs to be trained on this? Let's break it down for 3 key groups. First, your top management. They absolutely need to understand the big picture strategic issues here. Not just the risks, but also the potential opportunities that could give you a competitive edge. Then you have your system managers. They're the ones on the ground who have to actually weave these new requirements into the day-to-day fabric of your QMS or EMS. And finally, and this is so important, your internal auditors. They need to learn how to ask the right questions to make sure your organization is really taking this seriously and not just, ticking a box. And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. ISO has officially made its move. Climate change is now a quality issue. It's an environmental management issue. Your next audit is coming, and the question is no longer if you'll be asked about this, but what your answer will be when you are.